Alright guys, what's going on? I took a break from YouTube, man. I needed to, cause I just got burnt out. So I just took some time off, hung out. Good to be back. Market's crazy. What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Sorry, we're still off. I'm still off not putting my face to it just after I found out everything that I've reported in the past, where this chick that didn't like me was trying to find my live stream, which was really annoying, to try and get me in trouble, because I have a tendency to say shit that would get me in trouble at work. But whatever. What's going on, man? No, I just needed a break, dude. You know, look. The problem is, man, you get to doing it even though it's like once a week, and I've done this for so long. I don't think I really truly ever addressed the burnout that I had when, I was trying to build the channel. I didn't really know what was going on with YouTube. I didn't really know how to do it. And, I was posting like 2 videos a day. VA had me on some fucked up drugs. And, I kind of thought about it, and it was just like, I hit this point, man, where I'm like, I don't give a shit about this. And I knew I was like pushing myself through it. And if I took time off, I probably would rekindle, my love of ranting into a microphone with my inane musings, and then getting called a fucking clown because I call out grifters. There was some of that in there, man. Some of it was, I was just sitting there one day, right, doing the live stream with Chris. And I'm basically just, and I know what it is. It's trolling. But I'm like reading the comments, and I'm like, these morons are just repeating shit that I say on my channel. I'm pretty sure they're Jeremy LaBervy's guys. Not that I should really care what this dipshit thinks. But, just burnout, man. Burnout got me. And I was like, I'm going to chill out and play some video games. So that's what happened. I might do a review, but I talk about it now. I played the shit out of that video game, Days Gone. Probably should have put that in the title. It was I don't know if you've played this game, right? You're this biker named Deacon. It's out in like Oregon. You're riding around on a motorcycle, shooting zombies in the face. It's a janky game, but I say the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, for the most part, with that game. So I was playing that, and just couldn't bring myself to do it, man. I would sit there on a Sunday night in front of my computer, staring at it, and just going, man, I like talking to people online, but I really kind of just don't want to do this for a while. So, that's the long and short of it. So I hope I really appreciate you guys tuning in now that I'm doing this Sunday night live. YouTube, social media, it's fickle, but I'm starting to see some hope, man. There's like the whole, you just get to a point where you're watching YouTube, right? And you just realize how fake most of the people on it actually are. I kind of missed this, and it was the whole Tim Kennedy exposure. If you guys don't know who Tim Kennedy is, UFC fighter, special operations dude. I kind of always got a bad vibe from him. Just kind of suppressed it. But it's kind of one of my hypotheses I've had all along, right? About a lot of the vet bro influencers. that most of them are just fake. That's all they are. The social media stars, there's nothing really to them. Tim Kennedy lied about a lot of his service, and I was just sitting there and I would just watch these videos and I go, I don't get it. To be honest with you, I think the whole social media ecosystem is fake. Like YouTube, nobody's ever, not that the answer isn't out there and somebody couldn't say something that makes sense. And I know I'm inverting the burden of proof when I state this, but nobody has actually explained to me, and I hate when people say that, but I'm going to use it here. Nobody has actually explained to me how YouTube actually makes money. I'm still completely confused on it. Here's why. They say it's about views, eyeballs. Yeah, that's advertising for the most part. That's what they'll tell you, right? But are the views even real on YouTube? I think I've come around to the dead internet theory. I think the internet is dead. I think it died in 2014, 2015. And I think the powers that be killed it because too much truth was leaking out. When I say I've been struggling with this for 3 months now, right? Everything's fake. We live in a Potemkin village, right? Our politicians, they're all fake. Yeah, right, left. Yeah, I vote right, okay? I vote Republican. Kill me. Send the leftist death squads to my house that I don't vote for fucking, weird gender shit with children and all the other bullshit that comes along. It's a feel-good narrative BS, right? I stopped saying right. I'm back to that habit. But I've just been looking at the TV. The news is fake. The entertainment is fake. Yeah. What good movies have come out recently? That isn't a rehash of some 1980s movie. All the Disney shit that they're complaining about. It's all, we need men. Come watch our movies. Yeah, let me watch your movie with a feminist girl boss in it. That's what I want to watch. 110-pound female throw around a 240-pound man. Why? I don't know. She's got girl boss powers, right? All the women, they're all the smart ones. Name me inventions by women. Everything was invented so a dude could get laid. That's the honest truth of it, right? Women don't need to invent shit. I'm not saying they don't contribute to society. They do the best thing you can do. Create people after the dude squirts some goo in her, all right? Hedy Lamarr, brilliant woman during World War II. Beautiful and, intelligent. I would have eaten her ass. That's all I can say about that. But what I'm saying is, it's all pushing a fake-ass narrative. I have my hypotheses on it. That one of the reasons we're seeing a lot of this gender shit, it's a distraction. Why? I think the empire is coming to an end. You have falling demographics in an economy that depends on credit expansion. So you guys know, the majority of the money created is created by banks. You have your base money, your M2 and that shit, but most of the money is created by credit expansion. Now we're running out of people. And I think the ruling class elite have fucked up so bad that what they're going to try and do next is use force. And what they want is a soft, compliant populace. And that's what a lot of the gender push stuff is, right? It just is. Like, Democrats, no offense, not saying there's not masculine Democrats out there, but you have a tendency to have more feminine men in your party. Why do I say that? Look at every one of your leaders. Like Zoran Maldani. Is this dude screaming, "I run into burning buildings to save cats"? No. He's screaming, "I get a paper cut and then I need an ambulance there." Right? It's like Gavin Newsom. Dude's never changed the oil on a vehicle in his entire life. And will probably look at you with horror if you had some dirt on your hands and you went to shake his hand. But it is what it is, man. I mean, that's the long and short of it. What I went through, why I've been down for so long. It's just this overwhelming feeling. Politics is fake. Entertainment is fake. YouTube is fake. Everything is fake. I live in a Potemkin village. But let's get into it. Let's talk about Palantir, because I wanted to talk about this stock in particular. So, okay. What am I doing here? Trying to share my screen. Now, messing it up. Back to normal. There it is. Share screen. All right. What am I doing here? Entire screen. There we go. Okay. So, right. I want to tell you a little story that I had about Palantir. This whole thing has been kind of confusing for me on why people don't see this. Number one, whenever a stock does this, goes parabolic like this, I'm not saying you shouldn't gamble, right? What I'm saying is you need to be aware of valuations. And as your stock goes up like this, future returns do the inverse. They're going down. Why? Because you want to buy down here. All right, so this guy comes up to me, and this basically sums up the entire market right now. Again, I'll state for the record, I don't know what Palantir is going to do in the future. Probably get more overvalued, because I think the Fed is going to cut rates in an inflationary environment. I think they're going to start quantitative easing all over again. I think they're going to continue to jack up the money supply in a desperate bid to just keep this asset bubble going for as long as they can. But this guy comes up to me at work, and he's a nice guy, but he asked me, he said, "I heard you know a little bit about the stock market." And I go, "Yeah, I would describe myself, stock market knowledge, somewhere around a mid to high level blue belt if we were using the jiu-jitsu metaphor. So that would be a white belt, then a blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, black belt. That's the order it goes. Where I consider myself in the finance world is somewhere around a mid-tier to a high-level blue belt. Okay, so anybody out there that's listening to like Jeremy Lefebvre, Stockmo, these guys aren't even white belts. They haven't even taken a jiu-jitsu class at this point, but they're out there teaching jiu-jitsu. Okay, right. So he comes up to me and he asked me my thoughts on Palantir. I told him it was overvalued and he should start taking profits. But let me sum up what this guy did. At the time, it was probably somewhere around here. Probably had $125,000 in Palantir stock. Now, this guy told me that he panicked when, we had that little dip in the market here, and the dude was basically crapping his pants as it was going down. And I said, that's an uncomfortable feeling, right? You have all your financial future in this one stock. He looks at me and he goes, yeah. I go, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay. I told him, I go, what you should do is assign a weighting to your portfolio. Why? Because we know stocks can and do go down. You've already experienced this. If a stock in my portfolio, which, one has gone down. Did I panic? No. I don't even care. It's a fun play. I just want to see what it does, so I'm going to hold on to it. Right? No panic. It's not going to affect my investing future. This stock here will destroy this guy's financial future. He's in his mid-40s. He has all his money in one stock. So I go through and I give him the basics on why this is a bad idea. Come over here. We look at our financial ratios. I explain to him what this is. It's a synopsis of the financial statements. That's all it is. It's a cheat sheet. Doesn't mean, you look at this and these numbers line up so you go and buy. But what it is a great elimination tool, right? So I go over all this with him. I go, look, your price to book is 63 on this company, okay? Generally, for larger companies, it is unwise to go past 4 times book value. What does 4 times book value represent? Well, basically, if these are lined up properly, 4 times book value will be about a 20 price to earnings or free cash flow, or about an 11 on the operating cash flow ratio. Okay? That's not a rule. I'm just saying that's what it's going to be about. Now, can you go over 4 times book value? Yes, you can, depending on what that business is, the size of the market cap, and where it's operating. Tech tends to be less reliant on book value, okay? But all book value is your shareholder equity less preferred equity divided by the shares outstanding. It's telling you a story about how much equity is in the company. Now, operating cash flow is a better metric than either price to earnings or free cash flow to go off of. Why? Well, that's because it's much harder to screw around with this and it gives you a little bit more accurate snapshot. Why don't you want to go over a price to operating cash flow of 11? Because it just works that way. It's about half of what your traditional 22.5. That number comes from 1.5 times book value equals 22.5. What that represents is that you are buying at 22.5, 15% revenue growth. See, your price to earnings ratio just tells you how many dollars you're paying for $1 of the company's earnings. 22.5 would represent 15% revenue growth per year for the next whatever, how long you think you're going to go out, The discounted cash flow model is actually kind of flawed for one reason, and I'm going to explain that in a minute. 15% it comes from your discounted cash flow analysis, which really comes from figuring out the value of bonds, okay? You want to know You want to be able to project out the money you have in a bond plus the interest it's going to pay you. Discount that back to the present at the appropriate rate, which is the discount rate or the return that you want. So if you want a 15% return, you can set that in there to give you an idea of what you should pay. People just do a DCA and they go on with life. I've been guilty of it, but that's not how to really do it. Here's your PEG ratio. That's your PE ratio divided by the growth. For the most part, even amongst tech, you don't want that over 2. Okay? You want it at 1. Actually, you want it under 1. Because what that means is you're paying for $1 of earnings that will grow faster than the $1 that you put in there. Essentially, again, it goes back to buying $1 for 99 cents. All right. I explain all that to this guy. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, but it could do that, right? And I go, yeah, it could. It's theoretically possible. But you have a PE ratio of 493, which means you're paying, it's my handy dandy little chart here. Let's look. About a 500. You're paying for about 57% compounded annual growth over the next 10 years just to break even on this stock. Okay? Let's look at its revenue growth. Well, right here it did it. Right here it did it. Somewhere in the area, it's still not at it, but whatever. There you go. So it's not even growing at the rate. And really, where you would want to look is down here. What I really want to look at is how quickly my shareholder equity is growing. Okay? Because this is really what's of value in the company. Okay? It's your shareholder equity. If I could just buy one thing from the company, I would buy the shareholder equity without the liabilities and turn it all into cash. Okay, right? We can't do that. So how would you express mathematically the value of a company or a person? Well, it's actually astonishingly easy. It's right here. You go to a bank, you ask for a loan. Bank, what is it going to ask you for? It's going to want collateral, your assets. It's going to want a base of, what is this guy worth? Well, looking here, totaling everything up, he's worth $150,000. Okay, what's the loan he's asking for? Well, he wants a $75,000 loan. Okay, well, we know he's using his assets as collateral, but I really don't want to go through bankruptcy bullshit, right? So what kind of income does he have? Well, there you go. Put in the income, right? It's probably not really going to grow more than 15%. Again, exceptions are out there. And Palantir could. But that 15% doesn't give you the number right here. Doesn't get your dollar out of the company. It's going to take much longer to do that. If I had to guess, it's going to be something like 20, 25 years where your investment finally starts paying off. Remember, you are investing in a company, okay? And it comes down to its assets plus its cash flow, okay? You can argue about this, right? You can get mad about it, but this is the reality. And I just think there's so many people in the market that just don't get this simple concept. Because as I was explaining it to this guy, he finally looks at me and he goes, well, it could do that. I go, bro, You're desperate to fill a narrative. I'm telling you, it is more likely than not, and more probable than not, that you will lose money on this transaction. Maybe not. Maybe you want to hold it for 25 years. If the company's still around, because it's highly dependent on government contracts. It's extremely easy to grow your shareholder equity or to grow your assets. And another way of saying it, it's extremely easy to do that when you're relatively small. It becomes more and more difficult when you get to like Microsoft. Let's look at Microsoft's growing like a mofo. But how much growth are you paying for? Its PE is 37. You're paying for 20% growth. And you're not getting it. It's overvalued. A simple concept, right? If not, all right, let's even go further. 3.77 trillion, okay? Here's the underlying value of your company. Again, it's assets plus cash flow. You're paying 3.77 trillion for $619 billion in assets. So let's look at that. A 15% revenue growth, okay? 15% revenue growth is going to double your assets about every 5 years, okay? So you get to 1.2 trillion, in 5 years from now. And then we'll double that again. We'll just say it's going to keep growing like that, even though I don't think it's possible for a company this size. So you're at $2 trillion 10 years from now. You still haven't even gotten your money out of the company. After about 15 years, you'll be hitting right about that number and you'll start making a profit. So you'll get your dollar out of the company invested today 15 years from now, if things continue to grow at an accelerated rate. And I don't think it's going to. I mean, right here just knocks you out of the running, because it only grew 6.88%. So, again, most of your NVIDIA's awful. NVIDIA's got the boost from AI. Now, the question I would ask you, when you look at this revenue growth year over year, is this sustainable for a company of this size? I don't know. Maybe. I don't think it is. Okay? You have a $4.3 trillion market cap. Total assets of $125 billion. So again, with this company, you're looking at 15 to 20 years just to break even if you don't get out. So I don't know what to tell people, man. It's pretty fascinating that we have to learn this lesson over and over again, that these high PE ratio stocks don't deliver the goods in the long run. Again, you're talking about with NVIDIA, I mean, I guess if you think that this growth is sustainable, but what I would tell you is there's probably better deals within the market than desperately hoping that exaggerated revenue growth is going to continue forever, just so that you can break even. I mean, these valuations, they have to come down. But that's my thoughts on Palantir. I just, I look at a lot of these companies. I don't know how long it can go on. The average length of a bull market is 5.6 years. Okay? We were going into a bear market 2023. The Fed worked its magic, increased the money supply, did whatever that they like to do, tampering with the plumbing behind the scenes. And we're right back into this. Personally, to transition into the fact that I think the Fed is going to cut rates, is it's going to be inflationary. Okay? I think the Fed's going to cut rates by at least 25 basis points, maybe 50. I just think there's a whole bunch of pressure coming from the Trump administration. And what this is going to do for stocks, I don't know. Possibly a melt up, to be honest with you. But what follows every melt up? A crash. Yeah? The Japanese stock market, the Nikkei, got to a price to earnings ratio of, I think it was like 61 or 62. And then what happened? It took 30 years to catch back up. You're already at your highest price to book ratio that I think we've ever seen. It's somewhere around there. You're at the highest Buffett indicator that we've ever seen. You're at some of the highest Schiller PE ratios. So I don't know what to tell people. Like, people look at me and they're like, well, you failed to actually predict when the markets crash. And I'm like, yeah, nobody's going to predict that. Personally, here's a perfect example of what happens with parabolic stocks. Purple Innovation. Oh, this was a Meet Kevin stock, right? Just the bed company. Yep. Here's a Meet Kevin stock, right? That's what happens when things go parabolic. I remember getting called a clown, and, I was clout chasing Meet Kevin, which I still don't understand how that dude's around. How many assets he got? Oh. 303 million. What's your market cap? Ah, you're trading under. All right. Good for you, Purple. But, yeah, I remember taking all this heat for calling out Meat Grinder over the stocks he was pumping on his channel. And I said to this dude that was arguing with me at the time, which probably one of my biggest mistakes, again, was I know Tesla, fucked up my hormones. I wasn't acting right, because I don't really care at this point. But I was arguing with this clown on there. And he was telling me, he's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You should learn from Meet Kevin. And I'm just sitting there going, all these stocks are awful. None of them are profitable. They're all massively overvalued. Again, listen to me or don't. Tesla. Told you. Where are you with Tesla? All you fucking Tesla people out there telling me I just don't understand AI is going to do this, that, or this. Here's my question for you. All the people out there telling you what AI is going to do. Does Tom Nash or any of these guys seem like they really have their finger on the button of what's going to happen with AI? Nobody knows what's going to happen with AI. That's why I was warning people about this stuff. Here you go. Let's look at Tesla's income. Oh, it's dropping now. I was told by Elon Musk that his car company was going to grow at 50% per year. Oh, right? Where was your top? Again, things can only get inflated so far. And this is when all the Tesla fanboys, they come out and they're like, yeah, see, you didn't know what you were talking about. Okay, if you bought here, which somebody did, somebody bought there, right? So how do you know when this is going to end? If you don't understand what the underlying value of what you're buying is. All right, so here we go. It only took you, what was that, 3 years. If you had bought Tesla here at the peak, took you 3 years to get back to here. Well, all these guys, yeah, but I was buying it here. I'm real smart. Okay, have you taken profits? This is why understanding portfolio allocation is important. 1.1 trillion to buy 128 billion in assets. Smart. Probably no better deals out there in the market. But anyways, I think the Fed is going to cut. And I don't think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good in the short term. Okay? I think there's going to be a lot of first order thinkers that are getting really excited. Because your average person, all they know is my 401k went up, good. But what they're not seeing is the overvaluations and the years that it takes to get back there. Look at the tech boom. It took you 10 years to claw back. Because what you're not paying attention to is during those down periods, that's when your real wealth is generated. Your real wealth isn't generated when you go into bubble territory. It's the opposite. See, if you had been doing things right and understood, oh, this is an acquisition period. Spend 10 years buying those stocks. Okay, I'm back to where I was 10 years ago because that's, not that long in your working life. Now, the valuations are back to where they were before the crash, but you have many more shares. See, if you're not retiring soon, you should want the stock market to go down. You should want, if it were up to me, how I would buy a company is to say, I'm using fund money. And what would be the ideal way you would buy a stock for retirement? I would be buying it at or below its assets for the entire duration I was buying the stock, to be honest with you. Because if you're getting a good dividend, I can use that to augment my lifestyle. See, everybody wants to sell out of their equities. That's the way they look at it. They go, oh, well, my portfolio, I'm going to sell it off in retirement. One of the reasons why I actually think they're trying to prop up asset prices so desperately is because of the boomers leaving the economy. It's also the wealth effect. People spend more when they look at their 401k and they go, oh, I'm up. Even though they don't understand look, honey, we're worth $1.2 million in my 401k. We could put that addition on the house, not realizing their portfolio is actually worth about half. It's probably somewhere around half of what you have now would be fair value with the current numbers. But again, unemployment, all of this, the economy is souring. What it's going to do, I don't know. But I'm just saying. But yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I think the Fed's going to lower rates and there's going to be a melt-up. And at a certain point, right, stop me where, we'll just use NVIDIA, for example, or Palantir. if you guys think this is the stock of the next 20 years, right? Why wouldn't you assign it a portfolio allocation? Number one, I don't understand that, right? But all right. Stop me when you're selling your Palantir stock. Right now you have a valuation of what? Like 374 billion? Is $1 trillion too much for Palantir? How about 1.5 trillion? Like, at what point, since most of these people have a monetary number in their head, because that's what they really know. They don't really know underlying valuations, right? So your Palantir is 158 today. You selling it at 300? Well, there is a point where even the hodlers go, okay, yeah, I should start taking a profit. Okay, it's up at 800. Whatever. You sell out because you're like, well, I'll just be able to buy it later. But what generally happens after that happens is because so many people lose money because they're all excited as it's going up and you're selling into the market, they run out of greater fools. Then the company just starts dropping. And there's some bounce back and the bubble comes out a year or two later. Stock is way down and it doesn't do anything for a decade or two. Look at Cisco Systems. Cisco Systems didn't recover its market cap from the 2000s till like 2018 or 2019. Something like that. But if you go back and you read the 10K from Cisco Systems or any of these internet companies, it sounds virtually identical to the same bullshit that they're doing today. And even go back to 5 years ago. Tattooed Chef is really a technology company. Hype. A technology company. That's what they all were in 2000. Oh, now everything's an AI company. Bill Gates' new startup that he's funding where he makes some weird form of butter. I don't know if you guys saw this. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. But they made butter out of like hydrogen and water. And they're talking about, this they made butter out of like hydrogen and water, and they use natural gas to create it. This is how dumb people are. The person reporting on it goes, yeah, and we don't need to use, fossil fuels, and we can cut down on the number of cows. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in your chemical formula. Heard all this with margarine. But did you catch it? It's to prevent climate change. You're using natural gas, which is considered a fossil fuel, even though I think fossil fuels is the dumbest name for hydrocarbons, because I have no idea how plants and dinosaurs, they get buried by the mud and they go down into the earth. And over time, pressure from inside the earth cooks them into oil. Okay, ignoring the specific density that, dinosaur and plant bones are less dense than granite, ignoring all of that, like, does this make any sense to you? It's like, but again, it's just ridiculous hype. And that's why, I don't know when the market is going to tank, but I do know that there will come a point where all these, Magnificent Seven stocks are not the creme de la creme to have to be in your portfolio. And again, it just goes back to, what are you paying for $1? As much as I don't like everything money, they do get some things right. And at least they're better than Jeremy Lefebvre. Which leads me to my last my last thing I wanted to rant about before I do the comments, right? And that is Stockmo. Can somebody explain this guy to me? How is this guy, and this is why I think YouTube is all fake. I think a lot of these people had backing in the beginning from some talent agency or something. But like, how is this charisma void? How is he, how many, 71,000? What is this? This is your stock market guru? A guy who does technical trading, but actually doesn't understand technical trading.
The candle I've been waiting for. It was today and tomorrow, the Sunday and Monday candles. So far, we are seeing exactly what I'm expected, but the next two candles, including today, will mark my next big move when it comes to crypto, what I'm kind of watching for. We're going to go over that and a whole bunch more of what you need to know for this week. Now, today, I am teaching the live session on the candle method. For those who do not know, I got that down below. This is right here. Boom. I'm going to be doing that today at 2 o'clock.
Technical trading. Like you can't pick up a book on it. What makes you guys think this guy has... Look, I'm going to point this out about all of these guys on YouTube. If these guys on YouTube were as good as they say they are, I don't really like recommending stocks because I can make mistakes. And again, I have an honest assessment of my abilities. That I'm somewhere around a mid to a high level blue belt. Stockmo, if this is really all he knows, again, is not even a day one, I've taken one Brazilian jiu-jitsu class. He's a guy on the street trying to teach jiu-jitsu without even looking or doing any research. I don't understand it, right? I had to talk about this because I haven't talked about it in a while. I just don't understand it. Like, who...
Third link down below.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. If any of these guys could outperform the market, like Jeremy Lefebvre says, he expects 20 to 30% returns. If any of these guys could do that, they would be working at a hedge fund, making billions. And I'm even skeptical of the hedge funds. Like, go and look at, what's his name there? The head of Square, Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman. Go and look at his buys. Bill Ackman doesn't even outperform the market. You can go and look. I looked at his compounded returns, right? And I compared it to VTI. Bill Ackman didn't even beat VTI at the time. And that was in an inflated market. Maybe he has since then, but I'm saying that was like 15 years of Bill Ackman being a hedge fund manager. Couldn't even outperform a simple index fund, and he's charging people 20% of the profits plus 2% maintenance. It's like, dude, why wouldn't you just buy the market? I realize it's boring, but you're not going to outperform it over 40 years. Sorry, you're just not that good. It's like, oh, I started investing 15 minutes ago. I've got it all down. You know, I was never into this before the bull market started. But now I completely understand what it takes to build a portfolio.
Come over here. This is a live with Stockmo Mastering the Candle Method. This is for beginners who want to learn about technical.
This dude is so...
Session. I'm going to have a whole bunch of different sessions. Session 2, Session 3, Session 4. But right now, this is the first one. I did it last week. I'm going to do another one, this same one this week for those who were not able to get in there because it's sold out. We do have a few spots left. Once again, use code SAVE, S-A-V-E,
I would take him just to taunt him, but he would get my money and then kick me out of the group.
VE, and you will save 40% off. All right, what are we going to get here? So I'm going to fix my little computer thing here. And what?
Technical trading. The numbers are clear. Now, whether that's people not following the proper technique, not knowing the proper technique, whatever it is, the numbers are clear on this. 99% of people who do technical trading break even or lose money in the long run. Again, so that's gambling. Okay? It just is what it is. But I don't get it. I don't get it.
We have is this is Sunday's or Saturday's cancel.
Yeah, I can't even do that. Let's do some comments, man. I can't even deal with stock, Mo. Go back to the comments. J Noggy back. I wish I was a legend, bro. Strongman, you said it's because his job is to expose, but won't expose us. Who's that was what I was going to ask you. Who's shilling weed stocks? I mean, look, I don't know of any companies, but, you know, if somebody's looking at the financial statements, again, I haven't looked at them. I'm kind of skeptical on the whole weed thing. And the reason being is it's just really a difficult thing to do at scale for a particular company, if that makes sense. So, what happens if you're a weed producer or you're a weed store, solely a weed store? Weed goes legal, national, you can just buy it anywhere. Why would you go to a dispensary or something like that? You go to Walmart. Now, you could do the shovels and picks method. You're growing the weed, you supply it. But again, would I really want to be in that industry? Not really. I'd rather own food and energy, mostly commodities. I mean, if I had to break it down, what I want to own, commodities. You're always going to need commodities. So, you see you back. Never compromise, even in the face of Armageddon. Man himself. Peak entertainment. I wish I was entertaining. Missed you guys too, man, but I just needed a break. I just couldn't do it. You know, just you go through that phase. I'm going to try to be back into it, though. I've written down so much crap. It was actually confusing for me what I even wanted to talk about tonight. But I had to talk about Palantir and just the whole market thing. But I've got like an entire notebook. I didn't stop writing stuff down to talk about. So, holy shit. Thought you were TKO'd. I was, man. I would, like, honestly, bro, it was fun just sitting around playing Days Gone, which I'm going to do a review on that. But it was a good time. But, again, you play the game enough, you get sick of it. And I was, like, sitting there last weekend, and I'm, like, playing it Sunday night, and I'm like, all right, it's going to be time for me to do a live. Yeah, well, you got Marxists. They found out they don't like me. You know what I mean? And that's how they fight. If I don't like somebody and they were doing a live stream, they'd never hear about it. It's not my business, but yeah, whatever. It's not entirely her, it's not really her fault that I stopped doing them. It was really their fault that I had to take a lot of stuff down and then just go off screen. Because, again, it's just how those people operate. They just want to get you in trouble. What Discord does. Well, in Oregon, sounds like I need to check that game out. Tons of meth zombies and real. Been done. Dude, I almost moved to Portland. I'm so glad I didn't. But that was like 2018. I almost took a job where I work out in Portland, but I just decided it was too much. Because I was like, I bet I like the Pacific Northwest. You know, I like when it rains. I like that type of weather growing up in the Northeast. But man, am I glad watching how quickly that area has gone down under leftist rule. It just is what it is, man. You know, like progressives, if you look at them, they've all been indoctrinated in public schools. You go back, read Rockefeller's right-hand man will create efficient factory drones. We won't create any men of letters. This is what the system wants. Unthinking people that perpetuate the system. And there were a lot of good companies out there. Amazon, Microsoft, and these people are office workers. And that weird sort of progressivism that cannot exist when, say, you're working on an oil derrick. Like, if you're a guy that digs oil out of the ground, or you're a carpenter, or a plumber, you know, you're out there working all day. You don't have any illusions. You know that people need to work. The office workers don't have real jobs, for the most part. Like, I was going to do an episode on this, and I will soon. But it's basically how most of the jobs in society today are bullshit. They don't produce anything of value. I would love to sit down with somebody that majored in DEI or progressive feminist thoughts in college. And I mean, we created all these degrees for people that weren't smart enough to be in college. And that's a huge problem. The universities turned into diploma mills. And they pumped out all these people with useless, they don't have any skills. They don't even, for the most part, have the skill of just showing up to your job, doing what you're told, and going home. It's always like something about fairness or whatever. The indigenous fucking tree fairy somewhere is in danger. Jay, your attitude caused harm, you know, because you're not going to sit there and bullshit people. It's one thing that's one of the reasons why I could not do what Stockmo does and Jeremy does. I wish I didn't have any integrity, but I do. You know, I'm not going to lie to people so that my channel grows. Just personally, I think most of this is bullshit and most of the influencers are fake too. But, you know, you get up into that area and it's like, well, people were shoplifting because they don't have enough food. Okay, go to a food bank. There's things out there that can help you. There's services out there that'll get you food. Don't go in, well, let's raise the price of a felony to $1,000. Let's not. And then you get lawlessness, and then everybody just does whatever they want. They shit in the street. They smoke meth. You know, they're methed out of their minds. You know, they're fingering their balls on the side of the road. Then when you go, hey, bro, you can't do that here. Why? Because this is a park and I have kids. Well, we're going to shoot fentanyl and do meth. Finger our balls on our fucking Instagram feed. You know? So, Mark Zuckerberg, you know, the fakest. I love how Zuckerberg is trying to brand himself as a man's man. And sure, Mark Zuckerberg, right now, with his level of jiu-jitsu training, could fold my laundry and there wouldn't be shit I could do about it. But Mark Zuckerberg is not a real human, okay? There's something off about him. But it's like as soon as somebody starts, fake or not, talking like your friends, getting into hobbies that you're into, all of a sudden they're one of you, and they're not one of you. Yeah, I don't know. The billionaire oligarchs, they thrive on chaos. Leftists thrive on chaos because they're weak and they're worried about what other people are doing. Have you seen what that animal... Oh, dude. Raj Jackson is screwed, right? Because if you look, and people are going to point this out, when it gets in front of the cops and in court, if you look at what he did, when he walked in the ring, that wrestler assisted him with the lift. So that wrestler thought it was part of the show, that he was going to get some revenge for something that he'd done earlier, and he slams him in a way you're not supposed to take a slam in wrestling, and then just be... That dude is screwed. And yeah, Rampage Jackson's probably somewhat responsible for it, because Rampage just acts like a fucking child. He's a 50-year-old former professional fighter who's been in street situations where he's bullying civilians. Yeah, that was nasty. And that 25-year-old kid let his ego get a little bit too big for his britches. Oh, dude, it's all out of hand. All of it is. Like, everybody's in this rush. I don't blame him. There's money to be made. But, you know, Raj Jackson was reacting to the comments in his stream. I don't care what you guys say. I'm not going to go up and assault a dude like that. You know, if I feel some sort of way, which I'm too old for that crap anyways, I would rather just solve it between you and I. And if it's got to come to fisticuffs, we're about the same size and skill level, I don't have a problem with that. But you're talking about a professional fighter getting riled up about his live stream comments. You don't have anything to prove. You're a professional fighter. You know you could beat that guy up. You know, the guy mistook who you were, slammed a beer can on the side of your head. Then, when you talk to him, the guy apologizes 3 times, says, "I'm sorry, I thought you were one of the jobbers. I thought you were here to wrestle." At that, just let it go. The dude didn't disrespect you after he found out you weren't. Mistakes happen. Swallow your ego a little bit. Don't go in, slam a guy. It wouldn't have even been that big a deal if he had slammed the guy and the guy got knocked out and he went, "Oh shit," you know, and backed off it. That can be chalked up to part of the show, but beating him afterwards, I mean, nobody wants to see that. If you had a problem with him and you wanted to let him know, you let him know when you slammed him. You don't need to be punching a guy that's completely knocked out like that. That shit wouldn't fly in UFC. Nobody wants to see that in UFC. You knock a guy out, nobody wants to see you mount him and then just start ground and pounding. You're like, I don't want to see that. Like, as a UFC fan, a fan of real fights. It's like, okay, you won. Dude, why are you... Okay, the ref didn't stop the fight. You got 1 or 2 in because you weren't sure. You want to make sure the guy's out. I get it. But that dude was clearly out. Yeah. Raja Jackson is not a good person, and he'll pay the price for it. Oh, they all are. Your politicians, they're all actors. Like AOC, the scuttlebutt is, AOC auditioned for her role as a congresswoman. Now, I wasn't there, so I don't know, but that's a scuttlebutt rumor on that. You know, yeah, it's all fake. The politicians, they're all actors. Most of them were theater kids. In fact, a high number of Republican politicians are actually gay. So, I don't personally care who you sleep with. That is not my business. If you're going to Washington to write policies and be a legit, lawmaker, even though I don't understand where this celebration of lawmakers comes from, because every law that's written is an infringement on your freedom. Now, of course, we want rules against non-consensual actions. Of course, you want rules against that. Stealing, essaying, killing, all of that good stuff. Of course, we got to have rules against that. But people celebrate these lawmakers, and I'm like, hey, guys, I got a real question. When was the last time any politician's promises were actually delivered on? Barack Obama promised to fix the pipes in Flint, Michigan. Are those fixed? Joe Biden promised he was going to help the people of East Palestine. That get fixed? No. These people just promise you shit and never give it to you, and you turn around and you lick their boots. It's a lot of it is, I think, people overestimate their intelligence. When they do that, they would be considered a midwit. And midwits always make an argument just smart enough to sound like it makes sense, but so stupid that it confuses the person they're arguing with. I had a dude at work, good guy, had a good heart, but he was a midwit that thought he knew everything. And he would just make these weird arguments, which is my fault for not pushing it back on him and going, yeah, you got any evidence of what you're claiming? My bad. But they would just come out of left field. Because getting into any discussion with a midwit will inevitably result in the midwit not having a conversation with you, but trying to win an argument. I run into this. I had to stop going to this bar because this dude would be in there, and he always wanted to be the smartest guy in the room. But a lot of the shit that he said was nonsensical, and I would tell him. And the look on his face was priceless. He was not used to people pushing back on him. And he's a midwit. His arguments are just smart enough to make a little bit of sense, so stupid they confuse you. And you have to actually think about what the dude was saying. And then he would employ the pigeon tactic of chess, where it's pointless to play chess with a pigeon because no matter what, the pigeon is just going to shit all over the board and then strut off as he's won. I call it pigeon chess. But, yeah, they don't see it. And I point this out to people all the time. The people that were like, this economy is going to soar under Trump. How do you know? What exactly is he going to be able to do as president that Biden wasn't able to do? How do you know it's going to soar? Well, Trump, he cares about America. I agree. I think the dude actually does. I think the dude's actually a patriot. I just don't agree with every action that he takes. It's like, hey, let's bomb Iran. Me. Why? Because Israel's telling us we need to bomb Iran and they blackmail all our politicians. And I'll probably have Pegasus software drain my phone number right after I finish saying this statement. But I'm just saying, Israel's... you know what I mean? I have my criticisms of Israel. I have my criticisms of myself. I have my criticisms of everybody. But yeah, it's like, oh no, we need to be listening to our elected leaders that never do anything for us. They did a study and showed that that's funny. Yeah, I think again, Hollywood is, a lot of that is the result of nepotism. You have so many people, again, with fake degrees, the midwit level of the lukewarm IQs. They come into Hollywood and then instead of making entertainment, they want to produce culture. And it's like, you look at Disney, and this is something I was going to bring up too. Disney wants men back. Well, you spent 10 years telling men they were bad. Okay? And you don't want to make content that appeals to them. Right? This is what Disney is effectively saying to me as the customer. Jay, there's a new movie coming out. It's about a feminist girl boss. Okay? Not interested. Well, this is the movies that we're offering you, so you have to go to the movie theater and watch one of our movies. No, this is an optional product. I don't like the story you're telling. I'm not paying you. Oh, you're sexist or racist or whatever ist or phobe that they want to call you. It doesn't work. Personally, I think that was actually a referendum on the elites. People like the Larry Finks of the world, he was really behind that ESG and all of that. I think he forced it on Disney because he has that power. And he actually thought he could change society to a more feminized place where you would have more agreeable people. Like, I'm telling you right now, the economic system that we have laid out in front of us is in a lot of trouble. And there's going to be a lot of temporary pain as we work it out of the system. And the elites always want to use force to force you to accept the new system and change you and the way you view the world. This is why they hate people like Alex Jones that speaks the truth. After dude. We're going to see. Maybe. I don't think so, but it's possible. Yep, pretty much. I think a lot of it is going on. I really do. Because the baby boomer generation is retiring and there's not enough workers. And they don't know what to do besides inflate asset prices. It's really what I think is going on. I think they're going to try and maintain the facade for as long as they can. But the reality is this. It's like Ben Graham said, the stock market is a voting system in the short term and a weighing machine in the long run. So, I mean, I think that can be applied to almost everything. The truth eventually comes out. Things don't work like you want them to. So, it is what it is. Thanks, man. Well, we're getting into the 5.6 year, average bull run. If you actually take the numbers back to about May of 2020, I think it would have come out sooner. I think, most of us that predicted it were correct, but I think the Fed took action. And if you look, the book value of the market at the time was actually somewhere in fair market multiple territory. It was like 3.75, okay, when they really started after Silicon Valley Bank blew up, all those other banks, which was inevitable when they started offering, T-bills at a much higher yield. But it is what it is, man. So we'll see. I kind of hope this bull market stays in the overvalued territory until at least the midterms. And then after that, because I just think your average normie that isn't really into politics, if they see their 401k go down, they'll vote for Democrats. Keep in mind, I don't throw around. To say, well, I'm going to have some problems because a lot of times when the market goes down, it goes down to a little over 2 times book value. And we're at about 3.4, 3.5 last time I looked. Cash flow kings. Oh, dude, it's a sign of the apocalypse. There's no hope for humanity. There's just none. I don't have any hope for humanity. Seeing how easily people are tricked on social media, it removed any hopes I had for us. I'm like, not all of us, honestly, but a large portion of you are first order thinkers. They can't see the downstream effects of what you do. It's actually pretty amazing, to be honest with you. Well, we'll see if the 5.6 year hypothesis or average holds up somewhere around October of this year. And I do sense kind of pessimism in the economy, but what the fuck? I've been saying the economy's fake for like 5 years now. Ellen, hard to tell. Yeah, dude, you'll never time the stock market. I mean, you might on accident, but you're not going to set out. You're not going to go, well, I want to sell at the top and buy at the bottom. Well, I mean, dollar cost averaging would give you that ability, but, you're not going to just like nail it. If you have cash just sitting aside, you got to kind of like pick, okay, I'm close enough to what I believe the bottom is or the top. Well, historically, when the Fed is cutting rates, low interest rates are a sign of a bad economy. High interest rates are a sign of a good economy. Why? Because the economy can take the higher lending. You know what I mean? You can take on, the economy's better, so you can pay a higher price for debt. Basically it. And if you watch what the Fed does, they're generally following the 2-year treasury. Because the Fed really just controls the overnight lending rate. So they can do what they want with that. But a lot of times, if the 2-year is headed down, it means, if you look at the 10-year, what the bankers are saying this is the growth and inflation expectations. So if Powell cuts, watch the 10-year treasury. If that's going up, well, it looks like they think at least inflation is going to be higher. And inflation works as a temporary thing. But in the long run, inflation starts destroying the value if it's too high. Because now you got to pay your workers more. And again, the Fed can only pump so much money into the economy. But we'll see. I'm curious to see the 10-year and what it does. But generally, that's what the Fed does. They watch the 2-year and they follow it down. So to tell everybody, no, low rates are not a sign of a healthy economy. So, just so everybody gets that out of their head. Also, interest rates are not historically high. You could go back to as early as the 2000s, the early 2000s. Mortgages were 7% back then. But again, you know, the Fed wants to boost asset prices. Baby boomers have been taught their entire life that if their house is going up in value, they're getting richer. They're not. Follow me on this a little bit. You would be getting wealthier if houses were going down. Why? Because your money goes further and you can buy more houses for the same amount of money. If your house is going up in value, it's a good thing if your mortgage is like mine, 2.85%. You want to sit on that as long as possible because basically my house would be free. If you really looked at it in terms of I borrowed the money and then I used inflation to pay it back. Inflation was at 3%. But so I'm paying them back with less and less valuable currency. And yeah, I can sell that into the market. But again, my money has been debased along with that too. So, food for thought. But if your economy runs on credit expansion, that's why they always warn you about deflation. Because we rely on credit expansion to create money. It hasn't happened. I like that. That I would say that's a truism. Kid at work asked me about getting. Just tell him to. Yeah, right. Go watch Everything Money. I would have looked at him and said, buy an index fund until you learn more. Mid. Up to 2040. Okay. Alan. Yeah. I don't know. Again, it's going to be dependent on... It's just dependent on a lot of things. I think we're overvalued, and we have been for years. I've been bitching about it. But, you know, you look at... Warren Buffett considers the Buffett indicator the most accurate measure of an overvalued economy, right? We have about a 30 trillion GDP, and the Wilshire 5000 is worth about 60 trillion. If you look at the 10-year treasury, the growth in inflation expectations are about 4.3%. 4.3% growth in inflation would take 15 years or so to double the stock market. So there you go. That would indicate 10 to 15, more than 10 years of negative returns. So again, but what the market's going to do, that's impossible to predict. Yep. Yeah. Banks are buying up gold. There's whales in the market. I agree. To justify $400 million in the next 5 years to grow revenue. Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with your numbers. I looked at it in a slightly different way, but yeah, by any justification, Palantir is massively overvalued. I don't know what to tell people. Maybe it'll work out. I'm not going to sit here and say I don't see where Palantir is getting the money from, since they're essentially dependent on government contracts, and that's really where that revenue is coming from. Because Palantir is actually an evil company. It's the justification for it is total system awareness, meaning they know everything about you and everyone else, and you don't know anything about them. It was started in 2003 because they couldn't have the CIA do it, but, so they had a private company do it because that gets around the Constitution. Yep, I would agree with that too. They wish. I agree. They do that. This is what happens when the punch bowl is taken away. I don't see how take off. I believe in order to make it big, you experience finance or a large portfolio that people will want to follow. I don't even know who cash flow kings are. Those two guys have no experience. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say there's no 19-year-old out there. There could be, his dad was an accountant or a finance guy or an economist who taught this 19-year-old from the time he was a kid. But, yeah, I don't know who these people are. I'll check them out. Those are the clowns in this Discord. Oh, Echoes has been reading from Cliff Notes. It's painfully obvious who's. God damn it. Stop popping up, thing. Yeah, I mean, Seeking Alpha, all those places, it's not that bad if you're just using it as a quick reference, but Echoes is Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm blaming Otesla for that, but I saw things, I said things to Chris behind the scenes, because one thing I noticed about Echoes, he has a politician's smile. Meaning he doesn't actually get the crow's feet in his eyes, which that's a fake smile. And he worked in politics. I don't really care at this point, man. It's not something I really think about. Echoes wants to do his whatever he does. It's his business. I don't have any animosity towards him. I don't have any animosity towards Scott Schaefer. And I was beefing with him a little bit. I just can't understand how Scott Schaefer is actually big on YouTube. It just goes to show you, like, the whole thing's fake. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. It is what it is, man. I don't want to just talk about stocks, to be honest with you. I want to be able to talk about other shit, too. Like, everybody told me. They were like, oh, your channel has to be about one thing. I never really wanted it to just be about the stock market. I mean, how much can you really say about the stock market, right? It's wildly overvalued. Yep, it's about fair value. Yep, it's undervalued. I mean, and you can talk about really overpriced stocks. Okay? Stocks that you think is undervalued. But I stopped doing that because there was a guy that contacted me and told me he bought some stocks on my recommendation. He was actually thanking me, but I was like, Booby, do you got proper portfolio allocation, blah, blah, blah. Stocks are for fun. Retirement is index funds, and treasuries. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to stop recommending stuff. So it is what it is. And I made mistakes, and I can make mistakes. That's why I don't want to do that. But I just find it boring to just every week I got to talk about the stock market. It's like, dude, well, there's other shit in the news that I like talking about too. So what's all these clowns in here? Jesus. Ah, God. Runs and promotes. Yeah. That's why another thing I didn't want to do was take people's money. Everybody was like, oh, you get to X. That was the funniest thing. They go, oh, you get to X number of subscribers and then you monetize on whatever, Patreon or whatever, Discord. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to charge people money for fucking commonly available information. It's like I haven't even monetized this channel. I probably should have. It would have been some income coming in, but it all just, again, it goes back to it all just seems fake to me. Become irritated. He's a total hypocrite. Yeah, I mean, look, at a certain point, I don't know, like, I watch Chris's videos, I don't know, I don't pay attention to it that much. My real thing is, like, I just quit with the grifter slang. I was like, dude, people are going to do what they want to do. Nobody's going to unsubscribe from Meat Grinder's Patreon because, Jay Nagy said he's a clown. I just realized that at a certain point. There's no defeating him in a bull market. Like Tom Nash, his latest video, talking about how he's bullish on Palantir and Tesla. And I'm like, again, dude, I'm not seeing it. Help me see it. But whatever. I don't know what Chris has lied about. I don't know. As I pointed out earlier, he said he... So that's why... I see what you're saying. Are they pumping weed stocks? A lot of stuff, like, when I watch financial stuff, like, I watch guys like Richard Warner. I like Peak Prosperity. I watch that a bunch. Even though I don't agree with Chris, I watch George Gammon videos, even though, again, there's stuff George Gammon said I don't agree with. Like, recently, he was talking about, what the stock market did after 2000. And he's like, yeah, you don't want to be here when it goes down like that. And I'm like, bro, that's an acquisition period. Because he was talking about how it was just, you didn't get really any returns. And I'm like, again, that's an acquisition period. Where shit's cheaper, like you're buying it on a discount. And for me, in the situation I'm in, my investing style is tailored to me. Because I have certain advantages, I'm not planning on selling any of my index funds. If I want money, I'll just collect the dividends. Or if I do it properly, when I get there, I'll use the money from T-bills to augment my lifestyle. That's my plan. So for other people who go, well, I need to do the 4% rule. I understand, but your strategy is going to be slightly different than mine. You know, I look at, if we go into a market crash, right? And the market doesn't recover for 15 years, like I'm saying it would, to be honest with you, about the growth and inflation expectations. That would be 15 years for me of just buying fair value or undervalued, or maybe even slightly above value, but whatever. And really what I'm looking at is, what is my dividend yield? Okay, what kind of dividend am I getting? And that's really where I'm looking. So people might be looking at it in a different way, and I don't blame them, but yeah, I've told them about the troll videos. I've said, yeah, man, I'm not a huge fan of the troll videos, because there are people out there that, you know, if you want to put that in the title and then fucking talk about what a piece of shit it is, yeah, but I'm not a big fan of those either. Clown, and then the next day. Jesus, I didn't even know that happened. To be honest with you, when I was not doing YouTube, I was just watching Alex Jones and playing fucking video games, man. Yeah, I'm not on the weed stocks. I just don't see the business model. That's not the smartest. Counting. At all. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who is pumping weed stocks. I haven't seen it. I think Strongman's. Yeah, well, Chris is an accountant. And, yeah, if they're doing that and I haven't watched it, it's not good. Yeah, the only time you'll probably ever see me pump weed stocks is April Fool's. And I won't even tell you, because I'll do it on or these shitty stocks on April Fool's, or a live stream that week. And I'm not even going to tell you it's April Fool's Day. All I'm going to do is just leave it up. And if you're not smart enough to realize it was made on April Fool's Day, I'm just going to kind of look at you and go, yeah, I'm really not going to argue about this. They interviewed a weed stock CEO and pumped it literally like a day after he bashes you, and said anyone who buys weed stocks or promotes them are clowns. Damn. Never watched Cash Flow King before. Yeah, I don't do far worse. Oh, dude, yeah, Amit is whatever. He is what it is. It is what it is. Yeah. Made fun of me last week for being scammed by a company he promoted. I never received my... Yeah, that's not right. It's a literally 19-year-old with no homeless-looking man. Repeat what they read on CM. I don't... Yeah, I don't know that Amit is necessarily... I mean, again, I'm kind of going off taking consideration, I haven't watched any of that dude's trash videos in probably 2 years. Like, maybe I watched a video here or there in between. But, again, you know, I kind of look at it like this at this point. What people watch on YouTube is, I want you to repeat your opinion back to me. That's really what it is. This is why people get, I'm sure, if people see this video afterwards, right, and they comment on my live, it's going to be, you're a moron, you don't know anything about Palantir. And if I actually asked most of these people where Palantir came from and what it really does, they wouldn't know that it's an evil government program to steal all of your data. Okay? It's not an AI company. I mean, I'm sure it uses AI. But again, I'm going to go back to, what is AI? What type of AI is this? Who, like, AI is going to do this in the future. How do you know? Like, do you have a crystal ball? And, like, what are your qualifications to say that when you're looking back at me going, is the AI hype going to work out? I've heard all of this before. Jesus, I don't think I'm going to get through all of these comments, to be honest with you guys. And Capital Mindset is here, and there's massive arguments. Oh my God. Yeah, there's no way I'll get through all those comments. I'm going to do a few more comments and probably bail out, because I already see that Capital Mindset is arguing with Gil, and I'm not getting into a whole bunch of drama. But yeah, like Amit, it is what it is, man. I've kind of like just given up on all that. Jesus Christ. Yeah, there's no way I'm getting through all these comments, guys. Sorry. I probably should have started earlier. But making margarine with only synthetic. Yeah. No, dude, on that one, yeah, man. Yeah, it was the most disgusting shit ever. But zero value, at least. Alright, guys, there's no way I'm getting through all those comments, so I'm probably going to call it here. Yeah, I already see the arguments going on. Capital Mindset and Gil are going to go at it. Yep. Yeah, I'm not going to... There's just too many for me to make it through. So, here's what I'm going to say, guys. Appreciate you guys listening to my I'm Back video, ranting incoherently. And I want to say thank you guys for taking your time to come and listen to me. I really appreciate it. Always have a good time doing the lives. I hope you guys have a good week. I'll be back next week with another live. I've got a ton of shit written down. Some of it might be old, but whatever. It is what it is. So you guys have a great week. Sorry, man. There's just too many comments for me to even... I'm not going to sit here for 5 hours on a Sunday night. So, but thank you guys for tuning in. You have a great night. I hope you have a great week, and I'm out.